How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I just thought I'd sort of flog a dead horse, if you will, and make a video on my opinions really on the current state of WoW. I am going to be doing the boss guide soon. It's been a bit slower than expected, but those boss guides will be coming up very soon. I think the first one even today, maybe. But today I kind of just wanted to talk about my opinions on what the state of WoW is right now. And this one isn't so much like a scripted video or anything like that. This is just sort of me rambling, like the first things that sort of come to my head. Because I've seen a lot of people, especially a lot of bigger streamers and stuff like that, they've been quitting the game. Bigger streamers, bigger content creators, like even like some of the bigger names in the community, Preach and the likes. It's sad to see, as like especially like Mad Season as well. Like I can't believe he's gone. Like he's easily one of the best WoW like content creators, like hands down. And I was actually gutted to see that he's not going to be playing the game anymore, like because he's absolutely class. So for me, like it's one of them situations where it's a really weird one, really, because me currently, I'm like currently in my mid-20s. I started playing this game when I was like 9, so I've actually played this game for longer in my life than I haven't. Like, if that makes any sense. And although like I'm not a big content creator or anything like that, I understand like my opinion isn't going to hold as much weight as a lot of the people that have already made these videos. But just as a player in general, like a player who wants to see the game get better and who wants to see the game thrive, like for me it's just a massive letdown, to be completely like. I'm not going to go into any of the details of the lawsuits or anything like that. That's not for me to have any say in. Like obviously, like it goes without saying, it's absolutely atrocious. But for me, I'm basing this on the game. I'm not going to be basing it off anything like that. Although I am aware that some streamers have had their say, like Asmongold, where saying like, working under those conditions, you're gonna, like, if you work under shit conditions, you're gonna get a shit game. And I wholeheartedly agree. But moving on from that, let's discuss why the game so far right now is a little bit lackluster in what we've come to expect of World of Warcraft, and maybe what we should really stop expecting at this point in time, because it's been far too long now. So my top problems for WoW, in no particular order, so it goes for like class designs and systems, developer ignorance, the community itself, and I will get to that, don't pitchfork me yet, in-game transactions, and for me, like as a little touch on the side, the law. It's all just problems upon problems, and it's adding up to accumulate to a game that we just don't enjoy anymore, almost like we don't recognise. And for me, starting off with like class designs and systems, we were promised that we were not going to have any more stupid systems. Now, the systems, for anyone that's like not really clued up on what systems are, or if you're new to the game, they're basically just crutches so that the class that you choose can feel better. And for me, it's just lazy. It is downright lazy, and there is absolutely zero reason why we should have all of these systems in the game. Like, we had BC, absolutely quality. There was none of that stuff. Wrath of the Lich King, once again, amazing expansion. Like BC and Wrath, the two expansions that for me are held in the highest regard of what like World of Warcraft was. Because those expansions and Classic obviously are what made World of Warcraft what they are, and they were the global, like it was just a global phenomenon. Like, let's just be honest, like there was no other game managing to do what WoW was doing at that time. And for me, back in those days, that was when it was best. Like class design and systems now, rather than actually designing a class so that it is fundamentally better going into a new expansion, they design classes around these systems, which usually integrate tedious and boring means to sort of progress. And for me, it's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's kind of just like Blizzard, surely if any of you guys actually take the time to play this game, you understand that it is not fun. It isn't even remotely fun. Like, nobody likes world quests, very few people like Torghast, stuff like that. Like, it's got the nickname Torghast for a reason, let's be honest. So for me, a massive problem is, rather than actually going and looking at the classes how they are at a baseline, because we get so used to what they're like with these systems and how they play, when we go into the next expansion, most likely these systems won't work anymore, and that leaves our classes feeling weak. Do you remember when we, like, say you were ICC geared, right, and you went into Cataclysm lands? You see, you went to what was it, Hayal or Val'sharah, So you went to either of those zones, your character was dog dicking everything all over the spot. There wasn't a single thing that could touch you, unless you went to the dungeons, right? The classes has felt great because your class was like, it was basically designed well enough for it to be based on player skill and how well you know how to gear your class. That was, like, for me, that was the pinnacle. Those were the days. Absolutely fantastic. You can't moan at that, right? And then all of a sudden we got to like Legion, and we started integrating these systems. Like, I'll give them a pass on this one, right? Artifact weapons were innovative. They were a bit tedious to grind, but they were still fun. The way you could optimise your weapon, like at the start, and then obviously get everything at the end, it felt really rewarding when you'd actually done it all, and you actually felt the power boost, right? So, fast forward to BFA. They decide to try and integrate another system, and this time it's Azerite armor, right? So we get to Azerite armor, which is basically the most boring, tedious, awful idea for armor sets. It's almost laughable how they thought this could replace armor sets, right? So not only do you have to farm the same gear season after season to get the best and most optimal traits that you can have, it just really didn't feel engaging. It didn't feel rewarding. It didn't feel fun. It was just so busted. Like, you had all these options to choose from, but only a certain amount of them were viable because the balancing was just absolutely awful, and it made the game that much less open, because rather than going to different dungeons and wanting like gear because, you know, like, oh, I'm saved to this dungeon, I might go and get a save from this one, you can just pretty much rerun it, and you know, you just have to basically farm one dungeon, and where's the fun in that? Nobody likes farming one dungeon. So yeah, we go through BFA. We have the Azerite system. We have the the essences, which again, stupidly tedious, forcing people for the best in slot to go and play content that they do not want to play. At the end of the day, it's an MMO RPG. Like, if people do not want to go do PvP, you should not be forcing them to go to do PvP, and vice versa. If people want to PvP, you should not be forcing them to go and raid. You should not be forcing them to go and do Mythic Plus, because that just takes the fun out of the game for them. They have to spend more time doing something they don't want to get to something that they want to do. And where is that? Like, where is the fun in that, right? So people make the argument of like, yeah, Classic was a grind, but at least every grind in Classic meant something, right? And I think along some ways they have tried to sort of pull back from that Classic feel. And to me, it's just one of them situations where they've tried and it's not worked as well as they hoped it would, because at the end of the day, for things like that to work as well, not only do they need to be engaging, not only do they need to lead to something, they need to mean something. You need to feel the benefit of those things. Like, we all feel the benefit of getting our legendaries, I'll grant you that, but it's still boring. Like, outside of getting your legendary up, you do not obtain anything from there apart from a couple of transmog sets, which are lackluster at best. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but they're just lackluster at best. So yeah, so we moved through Legion. That was alright with the systems. BFA just took it over the top. So you had your Azerite armor, your essences, and then corruption, right? Don't even get me started on corruption. Need I say more? Twilight Dev was the best thing that ever happened to me, but also the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I think corruptions are among some of the worst things that happened to the game, just because of how it tilted class balance in certain directions. Fire Mage. Anyway, so we fast forward to Shadowlands, where we are promised that there's going to be no systems, and then there's the legendary system, which is tedious and boring. Then there's the conduit system, which again, tedious and boring. It shouldn't even be a thing. And while we're on it, this would be pretty much like a perfect segue, so I'll move into it in a second, but all these systems are designed to last an expansion. Why waste an entire expansion planning the next one using systems when you could just be making the classes fundamentally better? The classes could be better and we could ditch systems. Drop all this tedious stuff, let people get on with the Mythic Plus, let people get on with the raiding, let people get on with the PvP, let people get on with getting married in Stormwind for all I care. But I literally couldn't care less. As long as people are enjoying the game, what's the problem? But this then leads into my next point, which is developer ignorance. It was actually highly touted throughout the entire build-up campaign of Shadowlands that we were going to be getting, Blizzard feedback, and our feedback was valued, yeah? So we were getting told, the communication's never been better, right? We were told, we are working with the player base to create an experience that both are happy with. Looking back now, do you not feel like you were fed a bit of a crock of shit? Because I think I do, pretty much. Because, let's face it, we were told we weren't getting systems, and then we get the legendary system, the conduit system, yada yada yada, right? Which, again, entails, doing boring things that you do not want to do for the majority of your time to optimise what you do want to do. And I understand that, that's sometimes an aspect of an MMO. But we were loud and clear, right, that we did not want Covenants to be a permanent choice or an unchangeable choice or a choice that comes with, a cost. You know what I mean? So you get to 40 renown in the first patch, and then all of a sudden, like Kyrian or whatever's better for a certain class, it's kind of a kick in the teeth, because now you've got to go back, you've got to do that story, you've got to build all that back up again, you've got to take yourself down in power to bring yourself back to where you should be. And that should never have been the case. We work hard enough to gear as it is, right? We work hard enough to optimise characters 90% of the time, like for most players, as it is, yeah? So we tell Blizzard, we don't want it being tied to player power, or if it is tied to player power, can we at least make it so it's a bit more lenient, so we can swap from Covenants, maybe even level Covenants like side by side and sort of build them up together. You know what I mean? That'd have been a great thing to do if you were going around in a week outside of your raids or whatever, and you were doing the campaign or whatever for all the different Covenants for the max renown you could get. That could have been a really nice, it could have been made people play the mains a lot more. And then, for say when you did it on another character, because you've done the campaigns, you had the option that you could, skip the campaign and just build your renown up, whatever. But again, just the developer ignorance. It was kind of like, well, we think it should be this way, therefore you will like it. And it's like, no, that's not the case whatsoever. The hashtag pull the ripcord thing, right? That wouldn't have been as big as a thing as it was if players wanted it, yeah? So players argue against this Covenant system and how they're working it, and they say that the player feedback's vital, right? Where in that discussion was player feedback vital? Where in that discussion? Where on earth were we listened to in that discussion? We want it to be meaningful choice. I'm not being funny. Like you were saying that people would go based on aesthetics. If you look at the percentages, which I've only ever glanced at, right? If you look at those percentages of the players that have gone to a Covenant because it's their BIS, and then to a Covenant that they enjoy aesthetically, the people that have joined the Covenant for the BIS far outweighs the aesthetics, right? And to me, that's just a massive kick in the teeth, because I was thinking about maining a Blood DK when it came into Shadowlands, right? And I pretty much completely turned on the idea of that, because I couldn't really go with Maldraxxus for mitigation purposes. I had to go with Nightfare, so I had to drop being like the edgelord of Maldraxxus or whatever, and stop dropping my Death and Decay so I could put some flowers down. That's not Death Knight. That's not meaningful choice. That all that is just stupid game design. If you'd have tied Covenants strictly to aesthetics, that would have been a much better situation than just throwing out all these imbalanced abilities and then tying them to different Covenants. Or you could have even just the balancing act, you could have just gave every single class one new ability and changed the aesthetic of it with whichever Covenant they went with. That would have been a better alternative than just having to either switch or devote yourself, because now people can't play that. Well, some people get turned away from the content that they want to do on the off chance that they get declined because you're not a certain, are you a Venthyr, are you a Kyrian? No, well, no then. It's just another layer to get through, and the players told you this, and you didn't listen, you didn't pull the ripcord, and you just sat there with your nose up pretending once again that you guys know best. And for me, that's just not good enough. When you see games that are actually listening to their audience and putting in the effort, you've been sat on a high pedestal for that long that you're actually ignorant to the fact that one day you will be knocked off that pedestal, if you haven't already. Okay? I just think it's about time you stop pretending you know what's best and stop being lazy and coming up with these bullshit excuses as to why these systems are in the game that none of us want, and just face facts that the systems that you've designed are terrible. Classes on a fundamental level are awful. you should not be going into a new expansion feeling like you know, when you're the top of the food chain or whatever in the current expansion. You shouldn't be going into another expansion feeling like, you know, you're powerless, feeling like you know, you're just a waste really, because all your stuff's gone and you had a false, like you sort of had a false misconception of what your class actually was like. And instead of having these system crutches, just make the classes fundamentally better and start listening to the community on things that we evidently know more about what we want to do than you do. Trust us. Yeah. Another thing that I think brought down WoW is the community. Now, again, I said pitchforks away. I'm not blaming the community. I'm blaming Blizzard for the state of the community. So, why on earth was it ever a good idea? This is a thing for me. I understand some people might like this aspect because you might have friends on other servers, whatever, right? Why did they ever have to like bring like cross realm and sharding into it? Why? Do you remember back in the days of Wrath, BC, Cataclysm even? You know, where you'd go into the city and you would know people in that city. You'd know people in your capital. You'd have you'd have Doody McDoody, whatever he was, sat on top of the auction house on his raid and like high-end raid mount or whatever. You'd have those sorts of things. You'd have the people that you'd speak to. You'd have the people that you'd interact with. You'd have the people that you'd see on a day-to-day or like a weekly basis. And you had that sense of community. You had that sense of like being together on a server and stuff like that. It was I think it was far less toxic in the sense of if you were a toxic dick on your server back in the day, you just got blacklisted. Like nobody, like if you were a dickhead, people just ignored you and they didn't want you about. Whereas now people can just be a dick and then never see those people again, and you know, have really little consequence about it, which I think gives people that sort of crutch just to go out there and be toxic and for no reason just start bashing on players. Which people would like at the end of the day, if you give people the chance to to do something bad, you can't account for everybody. People are going to obviously know that there will be dicks out there, and if there was a dick on your server back in the day, you just got blacklisted and stuff like that. People didn't want to deal with them. You knew the people at the end of the day, and like I say, you had a community. Like you had your top guilds and your mid-tier guilds. You had your social guilds and stuff like that. But everyone kind of knew each other. Everyone was sort of all right with each other. It was just a much better atmosphere back in the day, like because it was your server. You know what I mean? Whereas now, you go into a city, I'm not going to see 99% of those players again. I will not see them. Like the community now is just it's just so fractured. There's no sense of community. If you go back to Classic and you like, I don't care if you don't like the game, the community on Classic 10 times better, because when you speak to people, you have conversations, you get to know people, and not just people in your team, but you get to know people from your server. And for me, that was just a big aspect of it, like getting to know these people, making friends with people, maybe joining a new team every now and then, you know what I mean? Like just, you know, experiencing the game and enjoying the people I'm being with. Like right now, I'm lucky to really have a team that I love playing with. And if it wasn't for them, I would have probably quit this game already. I've been really close, to be honest. But yeah, the community for me, like bringing in LFR and stuff like that as well. Like everything's just so watered down now. There's no real sense of accomplishment unless you're in that high-end raid scene. And I understand there is the casual player, but the casual player was also just as happy farming heroic dungeons and maybe doing like the second raid down. Like, you know, raids back in the day, you still had to do like, you know, Ulduar or whatever to try and get some gear, as well as from the 5-man dungeons to get into ICC. The gear was relevant. You still had to do Nax to get to Ulduar. Like that was relevant. Now all that content's just getting cut out, and there's just no reason to go and run things, and it's honestly just so heartbreaking. Like I won't say that Raid Finder's what killed WoW, like because I don't do it, so I don't want to comment on it. Like it's one of them, I don't do it, it doesn't affect me, but does it in the big pitch kind of thing. It's kind of one of the discussions you want to take yourself into when you got the time. But I just feel like the community is like so fractured right now that it's almost like we don't have a community. It's almost just individuals try to one up one another. It's just, to me, it just doesn't feel like a WoW community anymore. Like yeah, WoW community used to be like, you know, it was still toxic back in the day, but at least you knew the toxic people were, and you know, you knew to avoid them. Now, another big problem for World of Warcraft: in-game transactions. Now, I'm going to be direct. and a bit of a hypocrite and say, I sometimes get myself a token just because I don't want to go out and spend hours farming, right? But I will buy one token, and this isn't like, oh, but I don't do it as bad as those guys. I still do it. It's still part of the problem. But I will literally do it just so I can afford my stuff to go and raid, because that's literally the one thing that I enjoy doing most of all in this game. Whereas now it's sort of led to this, you can't even look at your like. This is what I mean by no community. In trade chat, there used to be a conversation. There used to be guilds recruiting, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, there's a new guild recruiter and that, but you can't really like. It's just not as good. Just isn't. Sometimes basic is better, you know. And you can't do anything now about how much spam is going into like the trade chat, which also leads to a knock-on effect as well. Is like, because all these boosters are getting all this gold, and at the end, now you can't tell really whose achievement's real. Like, you can ask for a curve link, say if you try to get pugs in or whatever, you can ask for someone to link curve and they could link you it, but they could have really done nothing at all towards getting that kill. Like in Nyalotha, we were progressing and we invited somebody who was like, you know, who'd killed N'Zoth, but when we checked him out, he only had the one kill and he hadn't killed half the bosses. Or most of the bosses, should I say. You can't really tell whose achievements are real anymore without going out to an external source and like maybe looking at logs, looking at how many times they've killed the boss. You know, just different things like that. You shouldn't really have to do that sort of thing, and it's heartbreaking because in reality, achievements were there like to you know, show. Whereas now you can just buy almost any achievement in this game, and it's only going to get worse. Like, you know, I don't even think they can take the WoW token out now. They could, but what sort of like ramifications would it have? I do not know. But all this boosting stuff and like all this like just spam. It's like, I know you can hide it, but it's just so annoying. Like, you can't have a conversation anymore. Like, I have to log into the game on different characters and move my chat, like, and sort of like move my chats about and stuff like that, just so I can see where I want, like, the people who I want to speak to. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I wish they'd do something about this. Like, the amount of boosting that's going on, it's just so shit. Like, yeah, you have your curve achievement and whatnot, but did you earn it? No. Did you feel any gratification? Yeah. In my opinion, you're just a lazy player. I've always been one of them that I want to do it for myself. There's no, oh, I want to go and buy a boost. It's, I want to do it for myself. If I haven't done it for myself, there's no reward. I don't care what loot I get. There's no reward in that. Because it doesn't better me as a player. It betters me gear and makes me lazier. And that's how I look at it. I don't buy boosts. And I just think they're absolutely shocking. And I think they're direct, like the amount of boosting that's going on now is directly linked with in-game transactions, the amount of money that's actually being pumped around due to the in-game transactions. And again, I do pay for, I get the money as well. I'm part of the problem, but I also wouldn't bat an eye if it went tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not reliant on it. I do some of my, yeah, grow up. But yeah, I do a lot of my farming. Like, I go out and farm my herbs and stuff like that. But sometimes when, say, I'm a bit busy, like I say, I'll just buy a token, whap it on the auction house. There we go. There's my next few raids covered. You know? But I wouldn't bat an eye if it went tomorrow. I'd just have to farm. You know what I mean? It's just one of them things. I've done it back in the day. I'd do it again. And the last thing that I kind of want to discuss as being a problem with World of Warcraft, in my honest opinion, like, as somebody who likes the story, the lore is a massive problem. Shadowlands has come out and it's retconned a lot of the best story. Like, why would you touch Arthas' story? Why? It was fucking perfect. Absolutely perfect. And to me, it's just one of them situations where it's kind of break glass and release Arthas in case of game dying kind of thing. Sorry, my voice is a bit thingy this week, guys. But it's just, why would you do it? Like, the foreshadowing for N'Zoth, all that foreshadowing to have him dealt with in a patch. Do you know how excited I was to actually deal with N'Zoth and find out what the hell he was, what the hell he was doing, and actually encountering him and going, like, sort of exploring deeper into the old gods and stuff like that, because I love that sort of aesthetic. I love the old gods. But now they just dusted him off in a patch. It's like, I was hoping we were going to get like a patch where we actually lost to somebody and then all of a sudden he's fully released, and then the next thing you know, we've got Age of the Black Empire or whatever. I would love an old god themed expansion, but instead they've just kind of dumped this, as Asmongold refers to him, Thanos. He came in, He collected his Infinity Stones, i.e. the sigils, and now he's going to fuck shit up. Like, I understand, like, Thanos was absolutely badass, and like Asmongold says again, everybody liked Thanos. Like, because he was relatable, because you understand why he's doing what he's doing, and all in all, it was just really good writing. Whereas now, we've kind of got the jailer, we don't know much about him, we don't know much of the history, it's not really being released that much in game. We're getting snippets like we can piece together. Like, I love all the speculation channels, like, you know, Akalon, stuff like that. I love the speculation. But sometimes I feel like the story needs to be told better for the people that don't really give a shit about well, not really like not that don't give a shit about story, but people that want to know the story and know what's going on so they can kind of relate to the game, but don't want to go to the external sources such as like Novel or whatever. Like, although I'd recommend it, is very good. But I feel like people just don't want to go to them kind of lengths to discover what should be happening in game, what should be clear as day for us there and then. So, that being said, we've had Arthas' story practically retconned, Sylvanas' story retconned, like God knows how many times anyway. And Sylvanas as well, like, she's had, like, everyone's been under the illusion she's been playing this 4D chess, and in reality it's just that she's not realised that she was serving. Like, are you stupid? Do you think players are going to, like, people who care about the story are going to be, you know, satisfied with that? Like, to me, that, like, the cinematic was class, but it was just lazy. So lazy. And Arthas is going to be coming back into it. God knows what they're going to do with his story. God knows what they're going to do with his story. And God knows what they're going to do with Sylvanas, but I'm pretty sick of her by now, to be honest. You had 3 or 4 expansion trailers out of her now. Do you not reckon it's time to, you know, shift her off a little bit? No, I just think the graze over story that has the potential to be absolutely fantastic, i.e. the Black Empire, they could have had that stuff. That could have been an absolutely buzzing expansion. That could have been a god tier expansion if done right. And maybe it still is at some point, I don't know. Maybe N'Zoth's still alive. I'm not going to go into speculation. I just think the story needs to be told better in game and stop releasing these novels that you expect people to buy. We already pay for the game. We pay for the game, so do we not pay for the right to know what the fuck is going on in it? We pay for the game on a subscription base. Like, at the end of the day, our money is what gives you the development, like, gives you, you know, what you have to develop. Do you not think we should get somewhat of a fair say of these, like, so, of everything, really? So, class design, like, you know, the community itself, like, what do we want? What do we want? Should that not trump what you think's best? Because we pay, like, we pay your wages. We pay for you to develop the game. You know what I mean? If we weren't paying, some of us haven't been paying for as long as we have, you know, you wouldn't be here. But to get expansions where the law's retconned and then stuff like class design just being absolutely all over the place and systems that nobody wants, I just think it's a massive spit in the face of the people that have been loyal to this game for so long. And like I say, I've been playing this game now on 14, 15 years. And I just can't help but feel disappointed. Like, the reason I still play is because I've invested too much money and too much time into my characters to just walk away from it and try and find something new. Because the truth be told, I still enjoy raiding. I enjoy Mythic Plus. I just do not enjoy all the stuff I have to go through to get to the level I want to be. Like, if the journey was enjoyable and it was less grindy, that'd be fantastic. Like, if it had replayability value, it'd be fantastic. But it just doesn't. Another reason I still play, as mentioned before, is I've got a guild full of people who I absolutely adore. Like, they're all fantastic, they're all hilarious, you know, we all get along great, and we have a good time. But if it wasn't for those people, I'd have quit this game a long time ago. And it really is it's just disappointing. And to be honest, aside from all the lawsuit stuff with the new people that are getting, like, put in charge, I'm hoping that the direction changes. I'm hoping they take it back to what made it great, because in my eyes, like I say, BC and Wrath, best periods of WoW. You know, Cataclysm arguably, even Mr. Pandaria was a great time, and when I really reflect on it, even though I hated it at the time, it really was a great time. But they started implementing all these systems, and to me it was kind of a system of, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So all these systems are fixing something that they've never really, like, I won't say never really struggled with, but something that could be a lot easily sorted if you sorted out classes in the long term rather than giving them this stupid crutch, and just make the content actually fun. Like, the systems need to be dropped. big time. And I think it's loud and clear now. And I think if you're saying about taking the community's feedback and, you know, working on it, I think if there's systems in this next game, I even think the word system in the BlizzCon announcement of the next potential expansion will actually lose you half your stream views, because people have had it up to the back tits with it, and I'm one of those people. I'm just hoping that WoW gets better, and I really do hope that they start listening to the community, because unless they do, I feel like it could be game over very soon. But yeah, sorry about the length of the video, guys. It's been quite a long one. But yeah, I'm going to be putting out the tank guide soon. I just kind of feel like I wanted to get this off my chest, even as a small as a small content creator. I feel like we should all have a say, and I feel like the more of us that come out and actually tell Blizzard what they're doing wrong, I feel like maybe they might listen. And if they don't, we just need to make it loud and clear that if they keep messing up, even the players that are as loyal and haven't quit yet as we are, and I'm not saying that's not a dig to like preach or anything like that, like not that he'd watched his video in a million years, but like he's done more than his time on this game, and for him not to be listened to is just absolutely outright stupid. With his game knowledge, he should be listened to. Asmongold with his as well, he should be listened to. But you know, I feel like if we all come out and sort of back up what these streamers are saying, because they're looking at it, I think Blizzard look at it as like, oh yeah, it's only affecting the top 1%. That's why they're mad. Nah, it's affecting everybody. I'm not a top 1% player, never have been, and I never will be. But at the end of the day, I'm still a player. I still want to enjoy this game. I've still invested a lot of money into this game. And to think that people aren't entitled to expect something out of that, like especially after the loyalty of so many years, and for them not to get pissed off, is a very ignorant and sort of toffee-nosed expectation. And I think Blizzard just really need a smack in the face, and hopefully Final Fantasy, New World, Bless Unleashed, whatever comes out, sort of gives them that slap in the face and shows them that, you know, you're not the top dog anymore. Like, you still need to be on your A game if you want to beat us. And to be honest, that's the way it should be. WoW's been dominant for far too long, and they've got complacent. That's as far as I see it anyway. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Take it easy. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. But until then, guys, bye now.